Yes, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome and joining us for our squad announcement press conference. Yes, we have announced a squad of 32 players, which I think has been shared electronically to you guys. And I just thought maybe just to start off by giving you a little bit of the logistics regarding the end of year tour. As you guys would know, the squad consists of 32 players. The logistics in terms of the tour is we will leave for our tour on this weekend. We will travel to France and we will spend a week in France, where we will have some training sessions or a training camp with some of our players, but also we will have some rugby or World Rugby 2023 events that we would attend. And after that, we will travel to Cardiff on the 31st of October. And that's where we will start our end of year tour. Playing against Wales on the 6th of November. Then the week after that, we will go over to Edinburgh to play Scotland, and we will finish the tour against England in London. Yeah, so if there's any questions, please fire away.
The series
Thanks, Zina. Jacques, if you can hear me.
Yep.
Jacques, usually a year-end tour is, well, often sometimes used as a way to blood young players. Were you tempted to bring a lot of fresh players in, younger players in, and introduce them to the Springbok environment? Or what's the reason behind sticking mainly with the tried and tested, and the reasoning behind that formula?
Yeah, no, listen, I think we've been building the squad since 2018, and I'm saying Rassie started with the squad in 2018, and I think everybody, or what was well documented back then, that he had a 6-year contract that ended up to 2023. So I think we're constantly building the squad. And I think if you look at the squad that we selected, there's some young players coming in almost at every tier. And when I say tier, I think if you look at the props, you would see Oxniche as a younger player coming into the mix now. If you look at Hooker, Joseph Dweba as a younger player coming into the mix now. If you look at a second row as Salman Murat as a younger player coming into the mix now. If you look at back row, as you will see Jasper Wiese as a younger player coming into the mix now. So I think we continuously breeding younger players. I probably would say that at fly off, we didn't do that. Even at the back three, Apelele Fassi is a younger player that we're getting into the mix. So I think if you look at our squad, you'll probably see that we have an eye on consistency in terms of the players that we selected. And we almost consistency and experience squad, like you rightly mentioned. And I think that's something that we will need going into the World Cup 2023. You know, we're fortunate, if you look at our squad of players that we selected, that they are quite young. The average age of our squad is 28. So although we have a very experienced squad, they're fairly young.
Nathan, you can ask your question.
Thank you, Zina. Jacques, a similar squad to the Rugby Chance, bar a few injuries. Will all overseas players be available, taking into account the obligations with their respective clubs?
Nathan, yes, yeah, very similar squad, and yes, the players, the overseas-based players, will be available, but only once Regulation 9 starts, or if the international window opens, which will be on the 31st of October. So obviously, the international players who's playing and applying their trade currently with their clubs will not be available for the first leg, for the first week that we are in France, but all the others will be available. Yes.
Craig Ray.
Thanks, Ina. Hi, Jacques. Hope you're well. Jacques, just I mean, obviously you want to win every test match, but the Boks haven't won all matches on the Northern Hemisphere tour since 2013. Is that an objective of this tour? You know, not. I mean, I know results are part of a process, but you know, you want to build a sort of aura. Is this important that you try and tick that box?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and I think it's going to be a big challenge for us in terms of this Northern Hemisphere tour, especially if you go and look at the squads that the coaches have selected. And like you rightly say, we haven't won all three almost in a decade, you know. So it is a big challenge for us, and that's probably with the eye that we selected this squad. You know, we 20 test matches out before 2023 World Cup. So I think it's almost similar when myself and Rassie came back, maybe a little bit earlier. But I think the big thing for us is to build continuity, consistency, improve our game. You know, we lost a lot of building in 2020, not participating in any international rugby. So it's almost trying to build on our game, getting better at what we're trying to do. See where there's opportunities for us to evolve in terms of a squad and in terms of how we play the game. And I think, it's a good opportunity for us to get used to the conditions that we might face in 2023.
Sorry, and the Lions, I mean, because of the Lions series, do you think there's an added bit of spice to these three main games as they were all teams involved with the Lions?
Yeah, I think obviously there will be a little bit of spice and trying to rectify maybe what happened in the British and Irish Lions series. But I think although there will be some spice coming from the British and Irish Lions series, I think it's one thing that we have to get used to as a Springbok side is that we are the reigning world champions, that we are currently ranked #1 in the world. So I think teams are going to come for us regardless because you are the team that they would like to test themselves against, as we found out in the Rugby Championship. You know, if you are a little bit off your game and you play a team like Australia, I mean, that's the game. That's the team they want to beat. So I think, yes, there will be a little bit of spice coming from the British and Irish Lions series. But I think the nature of the beast is, listen, teams are going to come for us regardless.
Philisanda?
Thanks, Zina. Afternoon, Jacques. I just wanted to find out, I mean, you mentioned fly-off being the one position that you probably didn't have a new young player coming through or a younger player coming through. Was there a temptation to find or identify some of the younger fly-offs around the country that could have been included in the tour? But you also mentioned the fact that there are other guys that can play fly-off, but was there an inclination to get somebody that's more a specialist in the position outside of the Damien Willemses, the Francois Steyns that can play fly-off?
I think it's a good thing you mentioned there. I think there's a lot of versatility in terms of our squad, and I know Cheslin is injured, but he's another guy that can step up and that have played fly-off for Toulouse at club level, you know. But there's big versatility in our team, which probably plays into our favour. But yet, no, listen, it's not that we're not looking at any young fly-offs. I think if you look at a couple of games that got played in the URC, there's some nice talent coming through there, and I think there's a lot of fringe players that are probably unhappy, and not unhappy, but I would say disappointed not being in the squad, because they really have. There's been some good performances in the URC. And there's no door shut for any of them. You know, if they continue producing performances like they did in the last couple of games, I mean, and they keep on knocking the door down, like a guy like I would say Jasper did. You know, going to England and playing an unbelievable premiership over there. That will open the door for them. So there's no door shut for anybody. I mean, we will continue looking at the players and continue looking at their performances. But I mean, we if I say at fly-off, if you look at a guy like Andre is still, although he's been there over 50 test matches, He's still a relatively young fly-off, being, I think he's 27 years old, so he'll probably be 30, 31 going into the next World Cup, which is not a bad age. And Allah's, I think, 30, 31, so he'll probably be around 33 going into the next World Cup. So we are fortunate there, but like if people say, listen, yes, we haven't brought through any young fly-offs yet. Yes, there's a couple that are playing, and we are looking at them. But obviously, we went with Morne in the British and Irish Lions series and into the Rugby Championship. We wanted a little bit more experience there. But obviously, Morne has now announced his retirement out of international rugby. So there's a spot open for us. So we will definitely keep on looking.
Heinz Schenk.
Thanks, Zina. Jacques, I'll ask you 2 questions just so I get my things out of the way. Firstly, you mentioned Morne. Apologies for putting the focus on a guy who's not in the squad, but I was just hoping I could perhaps get a few tribute words from you and just how much value is added to your guys' campaign in 2021. And then the second question, I just thought it was interesting. How much of a luxury is it when you have 2 squad members in Jasper Wiese and Marco van Staden who actually play as a combination at club level as well? I suppose that also is a real nice dynamic to have when you're on tour, in an international assignment, and you're thinking of maybe mixing and matching and knowing that these 2 guys actually know each other quite well, at domestic level as well. Thank you.
Firstly, I'm going to start on Morne. No, listen, what can you say about Morne? He's been such a great servant to South African rugby and a brilliant rugby player. So firstly, hats off to him in terms of what he's delivered on the rugby field. I mean, just a little bit of magic that he created. I say a little bit, the magic that he created in terms of the contest against the British and Irish Lions, beating them twice, and in the specific manner that he's done it, just speaks volumes for the guy on the rugby field. And then off the rugby field, I mean, he was phenomenal working with in this last 20 weeks. I mean, he always contributed, always painted good pictures, helped us prepare the team, was never scared to give his wisdom over to the younger players. And so, volumes that I can talk about the guy. And then, obviously, I think the thing that probably tilted over to him retiring out of international rugby is he's a big family man, And I think, especially with COVID, access in and out of squads isn't that easy for family members coming in and stuff like that. And he really missed his family. And I think that was probably the big contributing factor in terms of him making his decision. And we can just, we felt, obviously, we wouldn't have selected him in the British and Irish Lions group and in the Rugby Championship if we didn't feel that there was a role for him still to play up to 2023. But listen, we're all in different stages of our lives and we're different stages of where we are as a family. And we respect his decision and just wish him well. And like I say, what a fantastic guy, not just a fantastic rugby player, but a fantastic guy off the field and as a person. And then secondly, it's nice for us to know that Jasper and Marco are now playing for Leicester and they're doing quite well as a club. And they would know each other and they would probably get a nice combination going amongst the 2 of them, which will be interesting to follow. And it will be nice to see their contribution with us at the end of the year.
Ken Boland.
Thanks, Zina. Hi, Jacques. Just on that Regulation 9 window and that, presumably that's still fine then for all the international based players to play in that first test against Wales, especially since you have spent so much time together this year. And then just the absence of Faf de Klerk, does that change the way you're going to approach the games at all?
Yeah, firstly on Regulation 9, Regulation 9 is like it was always. You normally how the regulation work is you normally get your players the Sunday before the Test match, and we will get our players on the Sunday before the Wales Test match. So you get 1 week of preparation with the guys coming from their various clubs. So I think that has never changed like it was. So yes, we will have all our players available to us coming in on Sunday before we start our preparation for the first Wales Test match. So they are all available. I think the Welsh are playing a Test match on that Saturday. I think the Saturday the 30th, which is outside the Regulation 9 or the Test match window. So even a team like Wales, they won't have the players like a Rhys Hammett who plays for Gloucester in England. They will only have the local Welsh players available for that Test match. So that's pretty much how the Test match window works. There's a specific time where the clubs cannot keep players from joining the national setup, and that's the window, and it starts on the 31st of October. So we will have all our international players available for the first Welsh Test match, and then obviously for the following 2 Test matches after that. Then Ken, sorry, your second question was regarding Faf.
Yeah.
No, listen. Not only Faf. I mean, if you look at the players that we lost due to injury, Frans Malherbe, RG Snyman, Peter Steff de Tooy, not available. Faf de Klerk, Cheslin Colby. I think if you look at that group, they are probably 5 players that are pretty much, if they are on form and medically fit and from a physical aspect fit to play, they'll probably make the match day 23, if not the match day 15. And I mentioned those 5 guys because they've all been in a World Cup winning team. So it's big losses there, not only Faf but all of them. And then obviously the other guys that injured are a guy like Reinhard Alstedt, who was on the bench for us playing against the British and Irish Lions in the first Test match, and then he got injured and he struggled since then, got back out of injury, but then he re-injured it again. So and then Nicolas Janse van Rensburg, who injured his ankle playing for Montpellier. So those are 7 guys that probably was in the mix in the build-up through the British and Irish Lions series and the Rugby Championship, and they're big losses, but the nice thing, or there's no nice thing about injuries, but I mean the positive thing is now you almost have the ability to create a little bit of squad depth and experience into your squad. With those 7 players out, the next group must step in and fulfill their roles. Faf will be a loss, but now it will be between Herschel and Kobus Reinach and stepping up, and Grant stepping up and fulfilling those roles. And will we play differently? Yeah, obviously players have different attributes, and we must make sure that we play towards the strength not only of our team but also of our players. So we will obviously we'll have to have a look, and there's a lot of things that will play a factor into that. Yeah.
Jacques, sorry, just while you're on injuries, Johan Goosen, obviously a big injury a couple of weekends ago. Was he in your plans? I mean, we've been talking a lot about fly half.
Again, listen, obviously, like I said, there's a lot of fringe players who's on our standby list. And Johan was definitely one of the guys that we were looking at, and it's unfortunate that he's injured now, especially with Morne now deciding to retire out of international rugby. Probably opened up a little bit of a window there, and if you go back into history, a World Cup has never been won by a fly-off, I think, who's younger than 25 years old. So those key positions, game-driving positions, I would say 9, 10, 15, your line-out calling lock, the guys in charge of your scrums, your set pieces, which people will normally call the spine. You always would like to have experience in those positions. for handling the pressure situations, especially if you go into a World Cup. So yeah, Johan Goosen, long-winded answer, but Johan Goosen was definitely somebody that we were looking at. Yeah.
Morgan Pick.
Hi, Zina. Thanks. Yeah, Jacques, my question is answered just now regarding Morne, Steyn, and you've actually just answered the Johan question one as well. So I'll hand over to someone else. Thanks.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks, Morgan. Robin Duke.
Coach Jacques, sorry, my background might be bad. Coach Jacques, just a little change that you made in the squad. Is it because of what you guys faced during the 2019 World Cup that you might face them stronger, and also just going to the issue of
Yes, Robin. Is Robin?
Said that the answer is not yes. Can you hear me?
Robin, your line is very bad. Is it possible for you to type the question, please, in the chat? And then we'll go to Gavin in the meantime while you chat, while you type your question, Robin.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks, Zina. How's it, Jacques? I was just Ken asked the question about Johan Goosen, which was sort of part of my question. But just looking at all your fly half options, I mean, all the youngsters at the moment seem to be injured at the moment. I mean, it's not like you had the option of taking a youngster. I mean, Jordan Hendricks is injured. Cade Woolhut is injured. I think we'll go through all of them. They're injured, and not a lot of them are spending a lot of time on the field. Is that? And I know I agree with what you're saying about not having a young fly half for the next World Cup, but fly halves need time to develop, and I'm not talking about necessarily as a Springbok. They need game time. Is it a concern for you that so many of those sort of players are getting so little game time at the moment just because they seem to be injured? I'm talking about Cade and Jade in particular.
Yes, Gavin. Yeah, and like that's probably the bad thing about injuries. You would like to have a guy. I mean, we all saw Jaden. Hendricks, I mean, producing solid performances and getting used to the pace of the game. And yeah, it is frustrating. It would have been nice to see a guy going through a whole season, playing 16, 17 matches and then going into the next season. It would be wonders for his development. But I mean, it is quite frustrating from a national side but I mean, it is what it is, and we will have to live by it. But listen, there's some quality coming through, and I'm just thinking about Buta the other night. I thought he had a solid game. I don't want to go into the fringe players' names because I will literally open a can of worms. But like I say, they know what they have to work on, and their challenge is probably getting continuity in their performance. And that's the bad thing about injuries. You don't get that. Yes, but it's awesome. But then you want to follow that up in consistency of performance. That's going to be
Thanks. Thank you.
Nathan, you may ask your second question.
Thanks, Zina. Guys, you've performed the guys who performed in the domestic league probably feel hard done by such as the likes of Evan Roos, Warwick Galan, just in a few. You mentioned many players are injured and you wanted to build a squad depth. Did you perhaps have any thoughts, maybe resting a few individuals and adding those fringe domestic players who are on form?
Yeah, like I say, they probably fall for me in the category of fringe players, where they are putting proper performances in, or let's say they've played now 4 games. I think 4 games of the URC. Am I correct in saying 4 games?
Yes, 4 games.
Yes, 4 games.
So they had 4 games now in the URC, and I think if you look at it, I think there was probably one or two great performances from the team's perspective. And yes, I agree with you. A lot of them are really like the names that you've mentioned. And there's some other ones, that have put in some proper individual good performances. But like I said, the key thing for them is to put in consistent performances now, to kick on, to make sure that their teams are starting to perform, the team, not only the individual. So to almost get the team to also get the quality performances through taking ownership of their departments, taking ownership with their coaches. I mean, they know what I'm talking about. But yes, I agree with you that there is some young players that, like I said, that can be disappointed for not making the squad. But like I said, we are building squad depth just by purely the guys that are injured. Although it might not feel like it. It might not feel like, okay, with Peter Steff out, we are now getting a guy like Kwagga Smith is around about 16, 17 test matches. But he will now experience starting more, playing more test matches. A guy like Jasper Wiese will get more test matches under his belt. So although it doesn't feel like we're building squad depth and we're evolving the squad and getting experience in the squad, yes, Ivan is playing brilliant rugby currently, but a guy like Jasper also, and Jasper is now on 10 test matches. He will now have the opportunity to maybe add another 3 test matches under his belt, playing against Wales, playing against Scotland, playing against England, and playing away from home in Cardiff, at Edinburgh and at Twickenham, which will do wonders for his development as a player. So I think those guys, the guys on the fringes, the guys that you mentioned, they must just keep on knocking on the door. That's what a guy like Jasper did. He just kept on knocking on the door. I think when he came into our squad, he was probably number 4. But then Dwayne got injured. Then a guy like Dan got COVID. Then a guy like John Luke got injured, and that opened up the door for him. And then he took it with both his hands. So the guys, like I said, there's not a door slammed in anybody's face. We still keep in watching him. We're still looking at everybody playing every weekend, and they must just keep on pushing out those consistent performances.
Jan de Koning, is that a new question?
Yes, please, Zina. Jacques, if we look ahead to the tour itself, obviously you got 3 big test matches, strong teams. What would be your biggest challenge in terms of the teams, and what specific areas do you think can challenge your team?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So let's start with the Wales team. I think they're a team that they're getting 8 British and Irish Lions players back. When I went through their squad, they've got massive experience. If you look at their 9s and if you look at their 10s, the 3 10s that they selected in their squad, Gareth Anscombe is the guy with the least experience, and he's got 35 test caps. The other guys are all close to 50, and Dan is close to 100 test matches. And if you look at their 15 Williams, I mean, massive experience guys. So I think that's going to be the challenge. I think they've got good game drivers. Ken Owens, well-established British and Irish Lions. Alan Wynne-Jones, well-established British and Irish Lions. So I think if you look at all 3 teams, not only Wales, but Scotland and England, although Eddie has chosen maybe a little bit of a younger squad, I think if you look at the spine, if you look at Cowan Dickey, if you look at Mario Itoje, if you look at Youngs, if you look at Farrell, if you look at Johnny May on the one wing, I think if you look at both wings, they're over 50 test caps. So I think that's going to be the challenge. And we all know the Northern Hemisphere, you can get a day where it's rainy, where the wind is howling, where it's not conducive to keeping the ball in hand. So I think if you look at the squads that they've selected, even Scotland, if you look at their 9s, Price, well-established, Finn Russell, speaks for himself. Stuart Hawke speaks for himself. Duan, they've got some quality players, and I think that will be the challenge for our outside backs. That's probably the one area where I won't say we are inexperienced, but if you look at the amount of test caps and experience we've got in our outside backs, I'm talking 13, 14, 11, 15, except maybe if you look at Billy, who's got 70 test caps. We're under 20 test caps there. So I think that's going to be a nice challenge for us in terms of what those three teams are going to bring to us. And on any given day, you might walk out there and it will be a beautiful day. Sun can shine, and then if you play Scotland, they can take you from side to side with the quality that they have in their team and with Gregor as their coach. Same with Wales. So I think that's going to be the challenge for us, is to adapt to whatever conditions we face with that particular day, and then also what that opposition will bring to us on that day. It's going to be a nice challenge for us, Ken.
Gavin?
Sorry, Zina, is my hand still up? I thought it had gone down.
Oh, okay, it's not a new question.
Yeah, sorry.
Phyllis Sunday?
Thanks, Zina. Just one more question, Jacques. How much work have you guys done now looking at some of the squads that have been introduced from the opposition that you're going to face? I know England announced their squad yesterday, and it's got a couple of new guys in it. How much work have you and the assistant coaches have put in trying to find out and figure out how some of those players might contribute from an England point of view, but also trying to mitigate some of those strengths that they bring and those threats that they bring to you guys as an opposition?
Now, obviously, looking at the team globally in terms of, and when I say globally, look at the whole team and the squad and how they played and the style of play, what they did in the Six Nations, what they did now in the autumn series, or not autumn, the July test matches. We did a lot of work on that. Obviously, the whole Six Nations. But like you rightly say, I think the squads that played in June, if you look at the Welsh squad, it was a young team. So I don't know how much we can learn out of that performances. So yes, I think it's going to be interesting now, and lucky. I think we're lucky in terms of Wales playing before they play New Zealand before they play us. In a test match out of the test match window, and Scotland are playing also a test match out of the test match window. So we will have some good information on them going into when we play them. So I think we're fortunate in terms of that. But yes, on the individuals, obviously the stalwarts which we thought is going to be in the squad, we did some homework on them. But now we will obviously have to start profiling the younger guys and the new guys that they've selected in the squads.
It's time, I think, to switch to Afrikaans. We've got about 7 minutes left in the press conference. So, Percy, you can fire away.
Zina, thank you so much for this opportunity, Zina. Zina, before I ask my question to Coach Jacques Nienaber, can I just ask you a logistical questions? If I missed something, I would like to apologize. Are you going to be our port of call for this tour, man?
Yes, Percy, you could just contact me on Twitter, yes.
Congratulations, Zina. Thank you so much. Baie dankie afrigter Jacques Nienaber. Jacques, is altyd moeilik om 'n perskonferensie wat gelaai is met inligting saam te vat in 2 Afrikaanse vrae. Maar nietemin, my eerste vraagie dan is dan Jacques, net kortliks die samevatting van jou denkwyse agter hierdie groep wat jy saamgestel het, meneer. En in jou antwoord kan jy dalk net verwys na Salman Morat, wat jy sien in die nuweling in die groep, wat bring hy? Ek neem aan hy soek 'n leierfiguur, selfs nou by die Stormers, en in jou eerste antwoord ook net moontlik het verwys na Morne Steyn wat besluit het om die tuig neer te lê.
Ja, Percy, eerstens, ek dink as mens kyk na die squad of die groep wat ons gekies het, dan het ons uit die aard van die saak 'n oog op kontinuïteit in terme van ervaring. want dis 'n redelike ervare groep wat ons gekies het. Maar ons is gelukkig in die een kant dat alhoewel dit 'n baie ervare groep is dit nog 'n relatiewe jong groep. Jy weet die gemiddelde ouderdom van die groep is maar 28 en as jy vat oor 2 jaar sal die gemiddelde ouderdom van hierdie groep 30 wees, jy weet, met redelike baie ervaring en ons dink uit die aard van die saak ons gaan 'n redelike ervaring nodig hê in die wêreldbeker. Dis hoekom ons gedink het aan hierdie groep en dan ook ek dink ons het op elke vlak, jy weet, as jy gaan kyk na Stitte, Oxniche is 'n nuwe jong onervare ou wat ons probeer in die groep inkry. As jy gaan kyk na Slotte, Salman Murad is 'n jong en onervare ou wat nou sy geleentheid gaan kry saam met ons en miskien 'n bietjie meer inligting oor Salman. Jy weet, hy's 'n ou wat deur ons strukture kom. Ek was bevoorreg genoeg om hom af te rig beide ISA skole en ISA 120 en ek dink Salman was ongelukkig, jy weet, in terme van beserings. Hy was 10 teen 1, hy sou 10 teen 1 deel gewees het van ons groep wat in die Britse en Ierse Lions reeks ingegaan het as hy nie 'n besering opgedoen het nie, jy weet. So dit sal interessant wees nou om te sien of Salman daardie indien hy 'n geleentheid kry om daai trappie op te maak na die na internasionale rugby. Dan dink ek, jy weet, as jy kyk na losvoorspelers, ons het daar ook Jasper Wiese is redelik jonk, redelik onervare nog, hy's nou by 10 toetse. So ons het op elke vlak Apilele Fassie, as jy gaan kyk na die agterste driehoek, hy's 'n jong onervare ou wat ons begin in die blootstel aan die Springbok rugby, Springbok kultuur en hoe ons dinge doen. So ek dink met die ervare groep wat redelik jonk is ons besig om jonger spelers in die groep in te kry. Maar uit die aard van die saak is daar redelik ervaring daar. Ek dink selfs op 9, jy weet, ons het verskeie 9's, jong 9's probeer. Saneni Luhamba was saam met ons. Jaden Hendricks het 2 toetse agter die blad. Ongelukkig het besering hom ook kan ek sê, sy ontwikkeling in die wiele gery en nou het ons vir Grant Williams wat ek net met lof kan praat in terme van hoe hy homself aangewend het in ons toer in Australië. So ja, Percy, so dis min of meer 'n opsomming van ons groep. In terme van Morne Steyn, ja, yes, wat kan ek sê oor hom? Hy's ou kan nie op uitgepraat raak oor hom nie. En ek kan miskien sê as 'n rugby speler die Morne Steyn as 'n rugby speler, fenominale speler, die bietjie of nie bietjie nie, die geskiedenis wat hy gemaak het met hoe hy die Britse en Ierse Lions 2 keer gewen het, spreek boekdele van sy rugby speel ability, maar dan van die veld af ongelooflik ou, jy weet, in die laaste toer wat ons meegemaak het, die inligting wat hy gedeel het met die jonger spelers, sy magdom inligting wat hy het in sy kop, sy IP, as ek dit so kan sê, hy was altyd bereid om dit te deel met almal, en dan, ek dink die ding wat uit die aard van wat sy besluit gestuur het om sy uittrede uit internasionale rugby aan te kondig is 10 teen 1 familie. Jy weet, veral met COVID, dit is moeilik om families in en uit die bubbles in te kry en hy het regtig sy familie gemis en jy weet, ons het gevoel daar is 'n rol vir hom vorentoe tot 2023, maar 100% is ons gemaklik met die besluit wat hy geneem het. Almal van ons is in verskillende stadiums van ons lewens en sy familie is vir hom belangrik en hy wil graag die laaste 2 jaar wat hy dink hy het nog so 2-3 jaar oor om te speel en hy wil graag rugby speel en hy voel hy wil dit by die klub doen en ons eerbiedig sy besluit.
Zina, kan ek dalk 'n opvolg vra?
Yeah, Percy, and then last question after that to Leighton, and then we'll wrap up. Thanks, guys.
Baie dankie, Zina. Jacques, kan ek net vra 'n logistieke vraag? Ek sien meneer Rassie Erasmus is ook op die vergadering. Gaan hy moontlik saam met julle op toer moontlik as deel van jou bestuur? En net die ander deel van die vraag is dan, het julle as SA Rugby doelbewus besluit om in Frankryk voor te gaan berei of is dit deel van julle langtermyn 2023 plan of is dit 'n wêreld rugby besluit geweest?
Percy, ja, eerstens op Rassie, ja nee, Rassie gaan saam met ons op toer en hy gaan sy normale rol vervul soos wat hy dit voorheen gedoen het. Dan, ja, hoekom ons Frankryk toe gaan, ons het 'n oefenkamp daar, so daar gaan geleenthede wees vir ons om te oefen, maar ons gaan ook 'n paar World Cup 2023 geleenthede bywoon om bietjie die World Cup te bou in Frankryk. So dit is lekker vir ons om daar te wees en om bietjie familiariteit op te bou met die omgewing en met die area daar en ja, so dit was maar tweeledig. Ja, ons kry 'n bietjie voordeel daaruit in terme dat ons in Frankryk gaan wees min of meer in die tyd wat die Wêreldbeker gespeel kan word en ons raak bietjie vertroud met hoe dinge daar werk en dis ook 'n guldige geleentheid vir ons om 'n bietjie voor te berei voordat ons in die einde van die jaar toer ingaan.
Baie dankie, Jacques.
Lieten?
Dankie, Zee. Hallo Jacques. Jacques, ek wil net by jou hoor asseblief in terme van ouens wat aan die deur klop, hoe moeilik of hoe maklik was dit om hulle weg te laat siende dat jy fokus op 'n gevestigde groep en dan hoe lyk die deur vir hulle kanse vir toetsrugby in moontlik 2022? Ek dink aan ouens soos Delrig Lou, Roan Norkie en dan ook Evan Roos by die Stormers hieronder. Hoe moeilik of hoe maklik was dit?
Nee, eers Luiten, dit is moeilik, jy weet, want hulle speel goeie rugby op die stadium. Maar ek moet sê die groot en ja, dit hoe kan ek vir jou sê, al wat ek dink hulle kan teleurgesteld voel. Ek sou gewees het want die tipe performances wat hulle op die stadium in die URC gee is goed, soos ons reg sê, maar ek dink hulle uitdaging gaan nou wees om konstante goeie performances uit te lig. En ek dink hoe moeilik is dit vir hulle om in te kom? So maklik soos wat dit was of so moeilik soos wat dit was vir Jasper Wiese. Ek dink daar's geen deur toegemaak vir enige iemand nie. En sodra daar beserings is of sodra daar spelers nie op vorm is nie en konstant op vorm is nie, dan sal 'n ou moet kyk en daai spelers hou aan hardloop aan die deur, dan sal 'n ou moet plek maak vir hulle. Ja, so ek dink daar's geen deure toegeslaan in enige iemand se gesig nie. Ons gaan aanhou fokus op hulle en kyk hoe hulle die tipe spelpyl wat hulle deliver deur die URC. So ja, nee, dis nog glad nie, daar's geen deure toegemaak vir hulle nie.
Thank you very much, Jacques, and thank you to the members of the media for joining our press conference today. Thank you so much, and I hope Jacques answered all your questions. Apologies that we can't go on longer, but it was booked until 12:40. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. Thanks, Jacques. Good luck.
Cheers.